Hi, and welcome to a global storm update number 2. What you're looking at here is the Naval Research Laboratory satellite loop, which covers 4 days from the 24th to the 28th of October. So it's going back to the previous update from 4 days ago. I'm going to label the date in the top left so you can see what day it is in the loop. So there's the 24th, and then that's the 25th, this is the 26th, and this is the 27th of October. Now I'm going to label some of the key features from the left to the right, which is from the west to the east. First of all, we've got the storms we were looking at over Hawaii. Those are seen as clouds, deep clouds moving through and off. And these storms actually took out the power on most of Maui Island and caused flooding on the Big Island. Moving on, let's quickly label on the intertropical convergence zone, the band of heavy rain and thunderstorms. In Central America, we had a large area of rain and thunderstorms, and it's spreading from the Caribbean Sea into the East Pacific, and actually currently there are areas of development, and we'll go into more of those later. In the United States, there was the vigorous cold fronts we mentioned, and that has moved off and went off into Nova Scotia and into the Atlantic. In South America, it's springtime, and there have been some very impressive and violent thunderstorms in Uruguay, Paraguay, Argentina, South Brazil area. And this area is actually the region with the highest frequency of large hail in the world. And there's an area which is known as the Tornado Alley of the Southern Hemisphere. This is an area I'm very interested in, but if you know of any reports coming from this area, I'd love to hear them. From Sri Lanka through Indonesia, lots of rain and thunderstorms, and we're keeping an eye on the South China Sea for any signs of development there. And then we've got Saola, Tropical Storm Saola, which has now become a very marginal typhoon as it heads closer and closer to Japan. The Typhoon Saola currently has estimated 75 mile/hour winds. In Australia, there have been thunderstorms in the eastern areas moving through, and those have actually produced some large hail in Queensland. So that's a very hasty wrap up of the last 4 days since the previous outlook. Now let's take a look at what's currently going on around the world. This map shows the current lightning strikes going on around the world. I think there's about a half-hour delay on this. Anyway, what I'm going to do is just highlight where the lightning strikes are going on over the next few minutes so we can see where the thunderstorms are, and I'll speed up the video. Okay, there we go. Now what I've done is I've highlighted the lightning strikes, and also I've circled some areas in white that I want to look at in a little bit more detail. So first of all, let's look at the Australia-Indonesia region. Right, so here is the Bureau of Meteorology's infrared satellite loop, and in the top is Indonesia, and then Thailand is over here. And you can see all of the thunderstorms throughout this huge region. The color is into the red, but if you look carefully at certain areas, and I'm just going to zoom in on one in particular that looks interesting, the colors are getting up into the yellows and also even into the grays. Now what this means is that there's a thunderstorm over western Papua New Guinea, and it's reaching, the temperatures at the cloud top are colder than -90 Celsius. These are extremely deep thunderstorms, deep tropical thunderstorms. One of the other areas that was highlighted in the lightning was in eastern Australia, in the interior. Not exactly a heavily populated area, but some really dramatic looking thunderstorms. Yeah, as you can see, the Bureau of Meteorology has a severe thunderstorm warning for those thunderstorms that we can see in the satellite, for mainly damaging winds. You can also see the lightning on the Bureau of Meteorology's satellite page, although you can see the scale goes up to high frequency in the dark reds, and then it just stops, and there's a lot of dark red on there, indicating very heavy lightning activity. The eastern Pacific areas of thunderstorms actually spun up a brief tropical storm, and it was given the name Selma, and has actually moved into El Salvador and producing very heavy rains there. El Salvador is this nation here. It looks like the National Hurricane Center issued tropical storm warnings along the coast there, and I'm not sure whether it was a tropical storm at landfall. I guess it was, and I think that would make it perhaps the first ever tropical storm landfall in El Salvador. El Salvador has been impacted by named storms that have come from the Caribbean, but not made landfall from the northeast Pacific side like this one did. Okay, let's move on to the forecast. This is again, as from the previous outlook, this is the 10-day forecast. In the top right are the dates, and they're highlighted. So 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th of November, 5th of November, 6th of November. You can see it ticking away up here. Of particular note are the signs of possible disturbances in the South China Sea down here. There are a couple. Probably this first one that then moves into the Bay of Bengal is one to particularly watch out for. Whenever you see any kind of disturbance moving into the Bay of Bengal, you've got to keep an eye on it, because the Bay of Bengal has been the scene of the worst tropical cyclone disasters ever seen. So we'll be watching that one for sure. The Saola tropical storm, actually Typhoon Saola now, will be moving over the Japanese islands, producing a lot of heavy rain, and of course they're still recovering from typhoon land, so that's going to be a problem there, quite a bit of rain. Of particular note is that on the 29th of October, Saola is forecast to be a typhoon, albeit a weak typhoon, but still a typhoon very close to Tokyo, with Tokyo just on the left flank currently in the forecast. So that is in some measures the largest city in the world, so we better watch out for that event. So that's on the 29th of October. I've also labeled on a interesting looking low pressure system off the east coast of Australia. There it is, that seems to wrap around and then move off into New Zealand on the around the 2nd of November, so I would like to keep an eye on that one. There's a sort of a fairly stationary that stationary low pressure system off the coast of South Chile. And usually they're getting slammed by low pressure systems all the time, but to get one that stalls there is maybe not as usual. Anyway, that's one to keep an eye on. That's around the 1st of November. We've got the tropical disturbance in the Caribbean, which the National Hurricane Center is monitoring. It is picking up a lot of moisture there, and then it goes up over Cuba through Florida, and then it becomes part of an extratropical system, giving heavy rain probably into New York. And this might be worth a closer look. It looks like a significant storm. Right, for the Hawaii thing, I had to change the label to the 2nd of November. So I think around the 2nd, or 1st, 2nd, 3rd of November, there's a possibility of strong flow out of the south, bringing moisture over, perhaps just clipping the western end of the chain according to the simulation. That'll be another one to watch out for. This is the track of the tropical disturbance in the Caribbean. You can see it moving up and then just clipping South Florida before heading off to cause problems further up the east coast. The strongest winds are likely to be on the east side of the system, so most likely the Bahamas will be the ones that get the more tropical storm-like winds. As the tropical storm moves up, it's down here, and you can see it's passing over South Florida there. And then it progresses up off the east coast. And actually, there looks like two low pressure systems, but regardless, it comes in and slams the northern east coast of the United States, with particular impacts between around 30th of October and moving on that date. So it looks like the 29th to 30th of October. Moving on to Europe. In the previous outlook, we were looking at a transition to colder temperatures across Europe. This is still in the prediction, although it has shifted somewhat to the east with a big low pressure system over East Europe pulling down north winds on its western flank. And this looks like it's bringing snowy conditions all to certain areas of Eastern Europe, and particularly into the mountains. It's on the 29th to 30th of October and into the 31st. It's then progressing further into Russia. This shows the forecast for winds at about 1,500 meters above the surface, so more representative of where there are in the mountainous areas. As the low pressure system comes down across Eastern Europe, the winds become significantly strong and goes up into the purples, and the purple winds are hurricane force winds. All of this area over East Germany and down into Austria. At this altitude, it's hurricane force winds, and because there will probably be some snow in here, this is pretty bad blizzard conditions heading into the mountains of Central and Eastern Europe, and then passing down and even impacting all the way down towards the Balkans. And looks like the strongest impact in the Balkans, the strongest winds, would be 29th of October, and going back over Germany and into northern Austria, or Austria in general. That is the 29th of October, early morning. For the UK, it's a turn to colder conditions, but not nearly as cold as was looking in the previous outlook. But you can still see those north winds coming down across the country, and the high pressure then coming in, giving ground frost probably for a lot of the country. And that would be on October 30th and into the beginning of November. It then becomes somewhat milder. So all in all, quite a lot going on, as you can see, from possible blizzards in Eastern Europe and over the mountains to tropical development in the South China Sea and the Bay of Bengal, typhoon heading into Japan, low pressure convection possibly impacting Hawaii, stuff near Australia, South America continues, tropical storm into South Florida, impacting New York area later. Well, always exciting stuff. That's all I've got for the moment. Please let me know if there's particular areas that you're watching for and that you're interested in, because I can focus in on that in the next update. So yeah, thanks for watching. Later.